Mall of Maladaptive Dreaming was originally supposed to be developed and completed from March to September 2020. However, the COVID-19 pandemic caused delays that prevented us from having final performances until June 2022. As we stated in our land acknowledgement for this production, we know this land as the shops at Uptown Waterloo, but its far-reaching history is, in actuality, far more complex than that. The land we address with the colonialist name of Waterloo is the traditional name for many indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, Ottawandaron, and Haudenosaunee. After the Haudenosaunee allied with the British during the American Revolution, the Haldimand Proclamation granted the Haldimand Tract, which includes 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River, to them as compensation for their wartime participation. In 1796, businessman Richard Beasley eventually purchased a large portion of this land from Mohawk leader Richard Brant. Beasley subsequently sold portions to settlers, especially Mennonites from Pennsylvania. In 1908, Abraham Erb, one of these Mennonite settlers, purchased the land that we today call Waterloo. We saw the shops at Uptown Waterloo as a microcosm of the tension between natural history and imposed colonialist structures ranging from rigid social norms to built infrastructure. While conducting dramaturgical research into the history of this land, we learned that the shops were actually built over Laurel Creek, a waterway which runs through a good portion of the city of Waterloo and is one of the largest wetland complexes in southern Ontario. In fact, the creek currently runs under the mall on which this performance was developed, an architectural decision that came to represent the juxtaposition between the way this land naturally exists and the way settlers attempt to force it to exist. The buried creek remains a strong presence in the writing and overall devising process. The imagery of how its natural existence was essentially repressed by civil engineering occupied our collective imagination as we tried to animate the pronounced juxtaposition between how the mall presents itself atop the denial of natural history, hidden within concrete aqueducts beneath the mall's tiled floors. The development of Mall of Maladaptive Dreaming essentially became an exploration on a liminal between the natural environment of Laurel Creek and the built environment of the mall. The text for this performance kept returning to the idea of the mall as a void, a space that contains elements of settler infrastructure and the repressed natural environment, but in which ultimately neither can thrive.